is 2:01 on September 2nd, 2026. I'm convening the Frederick County Board of Elections monthly meeting. We do have a quorum with at least one member of the principal minority party present. Present are Ted Neves, Secretary Sherry McDonald, Vice President Nate Wilson, and I'm Mary Costello. Also with us are Dan Loftus, our counsel, and online MC Keegan Air, County Council Liaison. Please stand and join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? You've all had a chance to look at the board minutes for August 11th, and I have a motion to accept them as written.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McDonald and seconded by Mr. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
I understand County Council liaison is online but has nothing to report. Is that correct, MC? Or perhaps she's not. Okay. Thank you. Board council report.
The only thing I have to report is, as you know, the General Assembly went into special session to do redistricting for the congressional maps. After that happened, there were two lawsuits, one filed in Anne Arundel County and one filed in Dorchester County. And both courts ruled against the General Assembly regarding their redistricting, and now it's up on appeal, and tomorrow there's going to be oral argument with the Maryland Supreme Court on the Anne Arundel case. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions for council? Also with us is Director Barbara Wagner, and she will give us her director's report.
Okay. Just to report what's happening with us, with the Board of Elections in September. We have a number of outreach events going on this month, starting next week with voter registration training and general election information sessions being held at Hood College and the ARC. On Saturday, September 12th, we will be in the streets, that community event, where we will be registering voters and recruiting election judges. On Saturday, September 26th, we will be at the League of Women Voters panel discussion on mismal and disinformation. It's being held at Seaver Arts from 12 to 2. On the 29th, we are meeting with the teen librarians in Walkersville Library to discuss and give them information on the general election and how to become election judges. And then on the 30th will be our final VRD training before we hit into election mode. And that is open to the public, and it's for anybody that wants to come. You can sign up online. And it probably will be the last one we did before the general. And voter registration dates end October 13th with that in mind. Voter registration statistics, we have 209,671 active voters. We added 2,965 to the county registration. We subtracted from the county active status 905. We made 798 party affiliation changes, address changes within the jurisdiction. We touched 1,561 voters, and we instituted name changes for 1,250 voters in the month of August. We have 21 pending voters. One, the ID was not provided, and we were waiting on more information. 13, the ID was not verified by either the Social Security Administration or NBA. We're waiting further information if we can, and 7 were incomplete applications, that if they don't complete, we'll, take them out.
Ms. Wagner,
Yes,
is that number usually that high for the ID not verified? Is that an unusually high number?
that is a pretty high number, and the reason is because there's a difference between the primary, we closed the books between the primaries, so we had a lot of backlog stuff, so it'll take a little bit of time for NBA and SSN to get those verified for us. On the administration division, all staff are in compliance with state and local trainings. We do have, vacancy announcements out and up on DBM's website for our program manager, which closed on Monday, and 3 other positions in the office. And you can find those posted on the DBM website. The State Board of Elections sent out a statement on the recent Supreme Court ruling regarding the USPS final rulemaking regarding mail-in ballots. It read, the recent Supreme Court decisions regarding mail-in voting has no impact on Maryland's current mail-in voting processes. The ruling was a procedural decision, and additional litigation is currently preventing the implementation of the new postal requirements. We are monitoring the situation carefully and will always protect and advocate for Maryland voters' rights. Maryland elections are safe, secure, and verified. Please continue to rely on SBE as your trusted source of information. So going forward, you can find any, what's happening in the courts tomorrow and anything else going on about mail-in ballots through their website. And they will be posting also messages for the newspaper and stuff, press releases, I'm sorry. In voting division, we have completed, so it's as an update to 3, we have completed the post-election maintenance on all equipment. Before it was just the poll books, but now we've completed it on the DS200s and the ballot marking devices. And they are all working efficiently, and we're getting ready for early voting and election day. We are all, the voting system is also going out to the early voting sites to do a signal test, and that will be starting on Friday. We have to go to every site to make sure the signal is strong so they can receive the poll book information. And then finally, in voting systems, they're doing a comprehensive review and proofing of all the polling place signs, labels, and forms as required by the general election. In voter registration division, they completed all their list maintenance and all their comprehensive audits, and we are just clearing out all the backlog from the primary when we had to close our books. So we cleared all of that out in advance of next week's Taylor mail-in ballot pool. Speaking of mail-in ballots, the domestic mail-in ballots are scheduled to be sent out to voters starting Monday the 21st. UOCAVA, which is our foreign ballots, they will be sent out on the 19th, 45 days ahead of the election, as stated in law. We will again have 12 official drop boxes at the same location as we did in the primary, and a list of those drop box locations is on our website. In the election judge division, we're happy to report that we've had increased totals in election judge recruitment. The applications have gone up, and currently we have trained, and this is as of today, and I sent out a parity report, we have trained over 400 judges since we've started, and we have trained 2 training classes tonight going on, so training continues. Our advertising plans are up and running. We're going to be at the West Warehouse Cinema Election Judge advertisement run in partnership with Washington County again. We'll have radio ads on 106.9 Eagle and WFMD, as we've had done in the past. And as stated before, we do have a last BRD training. We had one in August, which had 13 people, and we do have one scheduled for September, along with the other outreach events. GIS is still just continuing to provide IT and software development support for all the divisions and staff. We are, current in our mandatory safety trainings for the building. And, a list of procurements that SBE is involved in is in section 9, and you can read forward that. And with that, I submit my report to Madam Chair.
Any questions for the director? Thank you, Ms. Martin. New business, we have to select precincts for supply verification for the November general.
You will be selecting 7 precincts for the supply verification for the general election. That supply verification will be held on, what, September 30th? September 30th. And you need 2 people.
So we need 7.
7.
Okay.
I took 2. I took
Okay,
one.
Ted's got,
I took one.
oh, here we got one, okay, you thought I had 2.
You got, so that's 4. 5. 6.
You want me? Okay.
Okay. Wait, read them off.
No, I'm not telling anybody. All right, mine's 05, 01, and 02, Emmitsburg Elementary.
09, 001, Newmarket Middle School, and 02, 005, William Talley Rec Center.
18001 Twin Ridge Elementary, and 02011 North Frederick Elementary.
09004 Kemptown Elementary, 02015 Monocacy Elementary.
Bingo.
Those are your 7 precincts that you will be doing supply verification for, along with the 5 early voting sites. So that'd be 12 in total.
And supply verification is the 13th,
30th.
No, the
the
30th.
30th, the September 30th, in case anyone is interested. Thank you. Another general update, including mail-in ballot processing and voter intimidation information.
So the mail-in ballot processing, we wanted to give you a little, take on what the council, Council Loftus said, regarding, what's happening with the redistricting question 3 on the ballot. So we have, as of today, we have approved all ballots with the question 3 on there, okay, as per the direction of SBE. And this was in order to meet the posting requirements of election law 9-207. Copies of each ballot have now been posted on the State Board of Elections website under the 2026 election section. We are still awaiting the outcome of question 3, which arguments, as council said, will be tomorrow. This, if it is necessary for us to make adjustments, we will work on taking that. The SBE, we will get our direction from SBE. They will take it off the ballot. We will reproof all of those ballots, audios, touchscreens, paper ballots, all of that to make sure that that is off or stays on. So wanted to give you an update on that. And then as far as the concerns, I believe was in the August meeting regarding voter intimidation. Anthony is not here today, but he did take down the questions. He said there was a number of questions regarding our plans to prevent voter intimidation. That's a little hard. You can't prevent voter intimidations. I mean, voter intimidation is against the law. It is a crime. It will be handled by the local authorities. I do have the ability to go to any polling place and have someone arrested if they are intentionally intimidating voters. And there's a number of ways outlined in the AG's report on intimidations factors that I can hand out to you if you're interested in that. So I follow these guidelines that the AG has sent out.
Is that posted on the website? Because the question came from the public.
I can post it on the website, yep,
I think that would be helpful.
we will post it after this meeting.
Mrs. Wagner, just to set the scene for what Frederick County was like during the primary, can you touch on any reported voter intimidation incidents in Frederick County and anything the public should know about the primary election process? Because I believe there was a lot of concern about the general election, but it felt to me sitting here that the information was not specific to Frederick County, but it was a general.
Yes.
So I'd just like to set the understanding of what the primary was like in Frederick County, and if there was anything of concern from that.
Yes. The most reported incidents came from electioneering. People being, mobbed in the parking lot, by electioneers. So that is a hard thing to manage, especially we only have jurisdiction within 100 feet of the polling place. That is our zone. That's what we can legally protect against electioneering. We have tried anything outside of that. If it gets too much, we do call 911, we do call that. I had probably a handful of those in certain places, especially during early voting. Nothing really major on election day.
And so the election judges, as well as yourself, I think there's some new legislation
Yes.
that came out, allows yourself and others to direct the arrest of certain members of the public that might.
Chief
Being
judges
here.
and myself and the state administrator and the deputy administrator are the ones that are allowed to direct the arrest if need be.
And I know that the board has handled, I guess during the primary, so myself included, we were sent out to some areas just to investigate and feel what those reports were. So I know that the board does actively investigate any threats or any sort of disturbance that's reported.
Yes, we take all of those calls very seriously when they come in from a chief judge. We actually do have voter intimidation paperwork that if a voter feels like they've been intimidated going through, they can fill that out. We also put SBE's information out for the public so they can contact SBE directly. And there is another organization called Common Cause that has reached out to us regarding voter intimidation, and we are setting up a meeting so you guys can discuss and ask your question, maybe what that group can help us with. And we are also going to, they've contacted every county in Maryland, and they've sat down with them and had really good ideas on how we can do, how we can best manage the electioneering.
Thank you.
So that was one question. There was another question on, about our security plans. We meet with a task force of agencies before every election. That includes the sheriff's office, all the municipal police, schools, transit, you name it, emergency management. We all have them in the room. All of Frederick County is in that room with us, and we talk through these issues, and we have that support. So we don't discuss security plans in the public just because we're worried you can get around our security plans. But we have a coop for both the state and the county in place, and we are in contact with those individuals every time during elections, not to mention the state attorney generals and above. Then there was a question regarding federal government and federal agents. As described in the guidance on voter intimidation, there is no place or real role for police unless we call them at the stations and at the polling places, and we expect that to be the same. So I will post this guidance for everybody to read. There was a question about security of the ballots themselves. Again, we don't discuss the security of the ballots, both, because there's chain of custody, we have a lot in place to make sure that the ballots are safe in transport and at the polling place and in the drop boxes. There are myriad of security protocols that we follow. And I think, finally, it was asked about challenges to voters, addresses, ballots during and after Election Day. On Election Day, the only challenge that is accepted is from someone who is willing to sign a legal affidavit saying that they personally know a particular voter and the person who is standing at the check-in table is not that person. If the person shows proper ID to a chief judge, the challenge is over. The challenge must also be made before the person leaves the check-in table or it's too late. This is all described in the challenger and watcher procedures, and they are readily available on SBE's website for anybody to read and anybody that wants to be a challenger or watcher. After the election, during the canvassing process, the law provides a way for observers to challenge a ballot being canvassed. They must give their reasons to five-member bipartisan board of canvassers. These people and the board of canvassers makes that ruling, and we do have paperwork out on during canvass days where if anybody objects to a ruling that this board has made about a ballot or a contest, that they can challenge that ruling, and goes back to the board and the board council for their review and their explanation. So, and one thing Anthony wanted to relay, and I'm just going to read it. We can't do any of this without the citizens stepping forward and serving as election officials and chief judges on election days. We've heard about some who are planning not to return for November, and we're very sorry that that is happened because their involvement is very needed. There are only 30 of us or so in the office. We cannot staff over 60 polling places ourselves, so citizen involvement and representatives from all parties is such a vital success to the electoral process. The citizens are the eyes and ears of the frontline election security for your friends, your neighbors, and your family members. And we do the best we can with those who voluntarily come forward to say, I'm willing to sacrifice my time and effort on behalf of elections. We appreciate those who already serve, and we encourage more people to do so. That's what makes our elections safe. It is, you guys, there's some chief judges in here today. These are the frontline people. These are the people that we are our eyes and ears on the ground, and we can't do this without them. So that was the end of.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to support what Barbara said, and to thank you for coming out to help make the elections and to ensure the integrity of the elections. We can't say thank you enough. We're sincerely grateful. Are there any disclosures to be made? Thank you. The next meeting will be on October 7th at 2:00. Is that date acceptable to everyone? Possible? And the next meeting is scheduled for 2:00 on October 7th. Public comment, we have one speaker who's asked to speak today, Mr. Kaminsky.
Good afternoon, I'm Jay Kaminsky, I live here in Frederick County. Question, for the primary, how many precincts did not open in time? That's my question to you. Barbara, thank you very much for answering my email questions. We identified at least 2 that didn't open on time, Waverly and Monocacy. Please implement a half-day shifts for judges. I can get a lot more judges if you do that. We've been asking for that for a while. What is the progress on that? I see a local media outlet post on Facebook and the board saying they're gonna start printing the ballots next week. Barbara, reference to that. Does that mean for the mail-in ballots that you, as a county and as a state, are going to ignore the USPS guidance on using federal tracking barcodes to keep ineligible voters from getting mail-in ballots? A reminder that part of the Secure the Vote lawsuit that we filed identified 383 people that had not voted in 3 elections and all of a sudden voted in 2020. We knocked on all 383 doors. And just out of those 383, 19 of them, we showed them their vote. We showed them that they vote and they said that we did not vote. So that is a fact. And that's about 20%. That's enough to sway an election. When can we see the language for the question on the ballot, especially question number 3? I think Barbara answered that. It'll be posted.
It is posted.
It's
It
okay.
is posted on the state board website.
Okay. We just want to make sure that if there's any input, to make sure the language isn't confusing. We don't want double negatives in there. And some of those questions are very hard to understand. I had many people come up to me when I was chief judge at Butterfly Ridge and say, can you explain to me what this just said? So if you've ever taken complicated tests that if the chief judge calls the board, and Barbara did respond, I really appreciate that. Since we can't have direct contact with a custodial staff, and when we call you and let you know, because I was late coming in the night before the primary and late getting in there the day of the primary, and so I had my 20 judges just standing around doing nothing. All we ask is if you can't give us their number, that when we call you, that we have a timely response. And also Barbara answered the question about sharing the school with after-school activities. Of course, that was summer, and this is gonna be, winter almost. So we had one school where the air conditioning went off at 5 o'clock and they boiled. But I think you had talked to the county on that. So, just I'm really having a hard time getting some of these judges back in here because everyone references the fact, okay, Baltimore County has a better system at the end of the day.
That concludes the business of the regular meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
Motion to return regular meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And may I have a motion to go into executive session? According to statutory authority to close the session, the meeting will be closed under the provision or provisions checked below, all from General Provisions Act 3305B. Number 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction. Any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Provision 2, to protect the privacy or reputation of individuals concerning a matter not related to public business. And provision 10, to discuss public security if the public body determines that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including the deployment of fire and police services and staff, the development and implementation of emergency plans, and to prepare, administer, or grade a scholastic licensing or qualifying examination. And on the personnel matter, we will be going into closed session because the discussion will involve confidential information about named individuals and confidential voter request. For the security procedures, discussion will involve procedures which must be confidential to ensure the security of the election staff and election facility.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today and for your interest in the important work that we're all doing.